everyone. You're listening to the Elisa Fucci Show. I'm your host, Elisa Fucci. I'm a motivational speaker, podcaster, an international best-selling book author, relationship life coach, and certified breathwork detox facilitator. They say real love takes work. Let me and experts from all over the world help you make being in a relationship fun and easy. Hello. Welcome to today's podcast episode. Oh my gosh, it's getting chilly here. And by chilly, I mean like in the 60s here in Vegas. So it's cold for me, okay? If you watch this later, you'll see that I'm wearing my beanie and I'm wearing my cardigan because it's freezing. Anyways, I wanted to talk today about a topic that came about a post that I made on Instagram. And if you're not following me on Instagram, you should, okay? Because I post so much valuable information, tools, and wisdom there to help you have a better relationship. Okay, so what I posted was on boundaries. I think I asked on my stories, I asked, what is the boundary that you struggle setting up or that you are avoiding? Because with boundaries, a lot of us struggle setting up the boundaries or following through. I mean, raise your hand if you know what a boundary is and you just don't want to set a boundary or you don't want to follow through. You kind of talked about it, but you don't want to follow through because you're afraid of what will happen. You don't want to rock the boat. You're like, fine, I'll just handle it on my end, right? You just take the blunt of the consequences. You just take the whole thing. You assume everything just so you can avoid rocking the boat. Because you know that the moment you set up a boundary and you follow through with a consequence, you know that that's going to create friction. You know that that's going to cause colliding worlds. Worlds will collide because what we're doing when we set up a boundary is here we are, like our partners are dancing merengue, dancing around, right? They're having fun. Like, oh, I love dancing merengue, right? And when we set up a boundary, what happens is we're just right in the middle of the song, right? Like on the best part, and you're just singing and dancing. You're going all out. You're changing the music for them. That's what you're doing. So of course, they're not going to like that you switch the music on them, that you're trying to tell them to dance a different way, to dance to a different tune. Of course, they're not going to like it. Of course, there's going to be things coming up for both of you, right? Because first, you're telling this person to change to that you no longer like the way that they're treating you. You no longer are okay with this dance that you are playing, this game that you're playing. You're telling them essentially you need to change or things need to change. And most people don't like change. Okay. So that's the first thing. And then for us, what will happen is that we have to get really good at being uncomfortable with holding space for other people's triggers, other people's emotions, other people's models, meaning thoughts, feelings, and actions. We get to be really good. We get really good at holding space for those things without making it mean anything, without making it our problem, or without making it a problem. Okay. So it gets hard for both parties, or if there's more parties involved, right? It gets really hard when boundaries are set. But it is the most loving thing we can do in our relationship, in our marriage, in parenting. It is the most loving thing we get to do because we are telling people how to treat us. We get to tell people how we want to be treated in the relationship and how you want the relationship to go so you are happy, so you are protected, so then you can show up the best way possible for them, for yourself as well, right? So it is the most loving thing you can do. And it is hard if you haven't done it before. And if you don't know how to hold space for your emotions and his emotions when the trigger happens, when your boundary has been violated, or when you set that boundary. Okay, so that's kind of what we're going to talk about today, because I have already talked about boundaries and I will cover it a little bit, but I'm going to talk about what happens. What do you do now? Now that I set up a boundary, what do I do? How do I handle when people cross my boundaries? When I say, I don't want you to yell. If you yell, I am going to walk away, and the person just gets mad or follows you around or throws a tantrum because you walked away on them, right? While they were talking, right? Or what happens when you tell your in-laws, I will not open the door if you come after this time, or I will not take your presents if you give presents even after I have told you we are not doing presents this year. How do you handle the boundary violation when your in-laws come, say during the day before Christmas, and they drop off all the presents for your kids after you said no presents this year? How do you handle that? Right? I want to show you what happens after, right? The follow up, because I got this question on Instagram from a follower and she wanted to know, how do I follow up? Now that I set up the boundary, what do I do? I'm left with nothing. Nothing has been accomplished. Things are worse. So what do I do now? So I'm going to go into it with you today, and hopefully this will help you and help my follower on Instagram with her problem, okay, with this situation. I want to help you follow through, set up the boundary, follow through, and then rebuild that trust in the relationship with yourself and with the other person, okay? Because I'm here to show you that you can have a healthy relationship with anybody. Okay. And it's all in the way that you think about this person. Okay. So my goal, my role is to show you how you can have a healthy relationship with anyone by you doing the work. We're not here to change anyone else. Again, it's just between you and I. Okay. So first, I want to define what a boundary violation is. What does it look like to you? How do you feel when a boundary has been crossed? How do you feel? What do you do? How do you know? Okay. How do you know? And usually a good indicator is when you're feeling resentful, when you're feeling angry, when you're feeling frustrated. Those are some indicators that a boundary has been crossed, whether it's a boundary that you haven't set or that you set already. Okay. And let me give you an example, just like the example I gave earlier with my follower. She was frustrated. She was angry because you think, I already told you I don't like this behavior, and you continue to do it even after I have told you I don't like it. So that leads to to not feeling valued, appreciated, understood. Right? These are some indicators that your boundaries have been crossed. How do you know that someone has crossed a boundary? Do you know? Have you ever thought about it? And how does it make you feel? Once we get there, okay, we're gonna build up to it. Okay, for me, it's resentment, right? When I know that I have said I don't want this and you do it anyway, I build resentment. I feel that resentment because I told you care about me, right? We start thinking this way. You must not care about what I do. You must not care about my work. We make it about us. Okay. So that is what a boundary violation. Once you know how you will feel and what a boundary violation is, I want to take it a step back. Do you know how to set up a boundary? Now that you know that you have your boundaries have been crossed, do you even know how to set up a boundary? And I'll go over it really quick. For those of you that are new to my audience, a boundary is you first make the request. Now that you know, okay, a boundary has been crossed, you need to make a new boundary. You need to reassess the boundary, right? Sometimes we tell people, I don't want this. I don't want you to call me after this time. I don't want you to show up after 9 o'clock. I don't want you to talk about X, Y, and Z topics. And they do it anyway. What happens is that we need to reassess, maybe close up those boundaries, make them a little bit tighter if we have not been following through, or if people continue to violate those boundaries. So this is how you would want to do it. You make the request. What is it? So the request is, if you do this, if you bring presents to the kids after I have told you no, if you raise your voice when we're trying to talk, communicate, solve a problem, okay? If you bring the kids after 8 o'clock, if you are being negative, if I feel that there's a negative vibe in the conversation, if this happens and then that follows, but is followed by the consequence, I will, and this is where people get it wrong. They want to say, you will have to take the kids. You will have to take the presents back. You will never see the kids again. Right? We enforce our beliefs, our power over people. And then that's the problem. That's where the conflict comes in, because people don't want to be told what to do. So it's all about what you will do. And make sure that it's something that you can hold yourself accountable to. Okay. Because I get people saying, oh, so I ask people like, okay, what will you do next time your boundary is violated? Next time he calls you names, what are you going to do? Well, I'm not going to tolerate that. What does that look like? Be specific. What actions are you going to take? What will you do? Are you going to block him? Are you going to walk away? Are you going to call the police? Are you going to stop all communication, everything? What actions are you going to take to keep yourself safe physically, emotionally, spiritually, and mentally? What is it? You need to put actions, not just, oh, I'm just not going to tolerate it. What does that look like? You need to put actions in there. Okay. I can't emphasize that enough, because I have heard this so many times. People tell me things like that. And I'm like, what does that mean? If you don't know what that means, what that looks like, guess what? Next time he calls you names, you won't know what to do. And your triggers and your emotions are going to take the best part of it. They're going to take over you, and you're going to allow those to dictate how you behave, because you don't have a plan. So your brain goes on autopilot, and you just respond from your trauma response, from flight or fight or freeze mode. And you don't have a say at that point. You don't have a say. So if you prepare yourself in advance, knowing the step by step, what that looks like, if this happens, if you do this, I will do this. I will take this actions. It's kind of what I learned as a parenting tool that you teach your kids. When you do